Welcome to the Retiring Canada podcast, where our mission is to educate and empower you to make the most informed, rational, and productive financial decisions. Hosted by certified financial planner, author, and chartered investment manager Michael Isbister, you'll go behind the scenes to uncover the tips and strategies to help you invest smarter, optimize your retirement income, and reduce the amount of tax you pay. Michael is an investment advisor with Fundamental Wealth, a trade name of Harbourfront Wealth Management, an IROC dealer. And now, here's your host, Michael Isbister.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Retiring Canada podcast. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the value of retirement advice. Specifically, I'm going to chat about the 4 types of value you should be receiving, the importance of ongoing planning and advice, common strategies that add value, 2 examples of retirees experiencing value, and lastly, as always, a few action items for you to consider. So in today's episode, I will be dissecting a research paper produced by Vanguard, one of the largest asset managers in the world. You can find a link to this research paper in the show notes. What is the value of personal financial advice? This question is of utmost importance to financial advisors, investors, retirees, and the financial industry in general. By putting a number on the value of their advice, financial advisors like myself can surface the highest value advice interventions and demonstrate value to clients to retain and attract more business. Now, I understand how this podcast episode is self-serving, as this is my profession. However, I think it will serve a purpose and provide value to the DIY retirement investor and the retirement investor who already works with an advisor. Unadvised investors, the DIYers, can learn whether financial advice is right for them. And advised investors can benefit from knowing how advice adds value to them in excess of the fees that their advisor charges. So let's get into the research and end off with a few case studies to round things off. Now, historically, the financial advice industry anchored on investment performance as the main source of advice value. In 2001, Vanguard introduced a concept called Advisors Alpha, which outlined how advisors could add value through relationship-oriented services rather than solely focusing on portfolio management. Since then, Vanguard has expanded on these concepts and been joined by many other researchers who have taken various approaches to defining and measuring the value that advisors deliver beyond just investment performance. The framework we will use to determine this value is highlighted by 4 types of value advisors can provide: financial value, portfolio value, emotional value, and time value. So let's go through each of these. The first of those is financial value. Ultimately, investment returns are important only in helping investors achieve specific financial objectives. Advisors can engage in a myriad of financial planning strategies to help ensure that investors are prepared to meet their financial challenges and that they are ready for whatever their family might face. The next is portfolio value. This comes from building a well-diversified portfolio that generates better after-tax risk-adjusted returns net of all fees, suitably matched to the client's risk tolerance. The third type of value an advisor can provide is emotional value. This comes from helping investors achieve financial well-being and peace of mind. And lastly is time value. This comes from the simple fact that advice providers perform tasks that, individual retirement investors might otherwise not have the time for, the willingness, or ability to perform on their own. So financial value and portfolio value, the first two, are most often delivered by the specific interventions the financial advisor recommends for each retirement investor. Think of these as the hard and fast numbers that can be quantified through data analysis and comprehensive financial planning. This can include portfolio management processes such as risk assessment, asset allocation, and keeping costs low. It also entails the efficient use of tax strategies like optimizing registered accounts, asset location, tax loss harvesting, and RIF drawdown strategies, to name a few. Emotional and time value are most often delivered by the process by which the financial advisor produces, explains, and implements those interventions and ensures that the client actually follows through. This is where the experience of the advisor team you work with will differentiate that delivery of said advice, and can at times be much harder to apply a dollar value to. This can include aspects like behavioral coaching to stay on track or to adjust your goals, emotional support to instill confidence, understanding your life aspirations and giving you time back through researching potential opportunities, reporting and summarizing planning into digestible and easy to disseminate, understandable action items. As an advisor, I can tell you the creation of value is an ongoing process that is constantly evolving with the times. For our team, the first step of meeting with a new client is to go through the fundamental retirement plan process, which you can learn more of by listening to episode 30 of the podcast or by checking out our website. In a nutshell, the key to the advisor-client relationship is transparency and trust. This leads to a mutual understanding of the retirement investor's aspirations and crafting a tailored and personal financial plan as the key driver to delivering that massive value. In fact, we believe that the more personal the advice is, the more value that it can deliver, at least before fees are considered. So this can include things like helping clients realize their plan, giving them the flexibility to spend and enjoy life, reassuring clients in times of economic euphoria or turmoil that they're still on track or they need to adjust, representing clients' financial interests in conversations with other professionals such as insurance agents, tax preparers, and estate planning lawyers. It also includes, making sure that the client takes advantage of tax-deferred vehicles early in the year so that they can avoid the procrastination penalty, recognizing and executing on opportunities for tax loss harvesting and asset location strategies, encouraging clients to stay invested and avoid large cash holdings, and recognizing opportunities to take advantage of low-income years with RIF drawdowns or other strategies. Now, it is the duty of your advisor and his or her team to be proactively monitoring clients and their portfolios to know when changes are needed. By effectively engaging investors and providing expertise through activities like these, a financial advisor can earn a client's trust, one of the primary drivers of a successful long-term advisory relationship. So let's go through two examples of how these four key drivers of value can impact the retirement investor. Now, a quick disclaimer here, this research paper is based on US investors. So there are a few US-specific nuances that may impact the outcome, but the overarching theme remains the same regardless of what country you call home. Now, as a reminder, those four key drivers are financial value, portfolio value, emotional value, and time value. So first up for the case study is Pete and Kim. Pete, age 59, wants to retire next year when his wife, Kim, turns 65. They have just under $1.2 million in various investment accounts, but worry that it might not be enough if Pete retires early. Now, they want to enjoy life while they're still young. Pete, however, is worried that they may not have saved quite enough to make it work, but he feels that he has enough to bridge the 2 years until he can start collecting his own CPP benefit at age 62. Pete has always enjoyed managing his own investments, but the stakes here seem particularly high. So they decided to engage an advisor to help them make sure they're properly positioned for the transition and, the loss of his working income. Now, after completing a thorough analysis, it's discovered that Pete and Kim can't just expect to be successful without implementing some advice interventions. Their baseline range of outcomes includes a troubling high chance of failure. Fortunately, their advisor can find some interventions that greatly reduce their risk of a shortfall and can make their dream practical, especially if they're ready to make further future changes if the situation requires. So Pete and Kim get value here from a number of sources. The first recommendation that would add value is that they defer claiming Pete's government pension until he turns 70. Now, while originally skeptical of this approach, Pete and Kim eventually see that deferring Pete's much larger benefit protects the survivor should one of them die. And it also means they have more guaranteed income in the case that they find their assets falling short in the future. Pete and Kim's advisor is also able to find some big opportunities for providing portfolio value. Pete and Kim are keeping, quite a bit of cash on hand, which will be, more productive if invested. They will also, they also do have a very strong Canadian home bias that limits their risk-adjusted returns. And in addition, their advisor knows that costs matter. Simply reducing mutual fund expense ratios is enough to cover the advisory fees in this case, with 20 basis points being spared over. Pete and Kim also have some minor tax reduction opportunities they can realize, particularly by using smart withdrawal strategies and RIF withdrawals in the years before government pensions and required RIF minimums begin. Now, the other key intervention is to scale back their spending a little bit. A 10% budget reduction gives them a little more room to weather the possibility of future bad outcomes. Perhaps they will have the opportunity to reconsider this intervention if markets are really friendly to them in the coming years. But for now, they'll be happy to take, a little bit more of a conservative approach in spending if it helps them to realize their retirement dreams. So in summary, in this case, the most valuable advice interventions included delaying government benefits like CPP, fixing the cash drag in their portfolio, also addressing the home country bias within that portfolio, reducing a portion of their annual spending, especially early in retirement, and then also utilizing tax-efficient investing strategies and asset location to optimize their portfolios. So overall, this led to a 218 basis point or 2.18% increase in their return annually. And that is also the equivalent in utility to an immediate $644,000 infusion added to their taxable accounts. So, this added utility is now essentially found money that can be used to secure long-term retirement and to stay retired. Okay, so the second case study is Maria and Larry. This retired couple, both age 70, have built a nest egg of about $3.2 million through aggressive saving and a frugal lifestyle. Current projections show almost no chance that they will run out of money. Maria and her husband Larry are both 70, and until she met Larry, Maria was used to doing things her own way, and she accumulated over $3 million through frugal living and aggressive savings. Maria has also, worried about running out of money in retirement. She waited to collect CPP and OAS until age 70, and Larry is collecting a smaller spousal benefit. Now, Maria hasn't been happy lately with her current advisor, and she feels that she could probably do at least as well with a new advisor while paying 45 basis points less per year doing so. She'd like to make sure that the nest egg she worked so hard to build doesn't crack. Now, at first glance, Maria and Larry's advisor can see that they're in pretty good shape. With their current plan, there's no realistic chance they will run out of money. So what advice interventions will actually add value here? Interestingly, in this case, the most valuable one is encouraging them to worry less and spend more. Even with a 10% increase in annual spending, they will still virtually have no risk of running out of money. Maria is reluctant to do this because she is comfortable with her life and finds it difficult to spend from her nest egg that she's worked so hard to build. But, her advisor is able to help her realize that she, would actually maybe enjoy renting out a large vacation home in the summer and inviting her children and grandchildren to come along. Sometimes good behavioral coaching isn't about preventing bad investment behaviors, but rather about giving investors permission to indulge and spend their hard-earned retirement monies. Now, after a comprehensive plan is in place, they can spend this additional money while still increasing their financial security. That is because the reduction in cost, combined with some targeted asset allocation and tax strategies, is more than enough to counter any negative portfolio effects of the added spending. So in summary, the advisor here was able to provide value through a multi-strategy approach, encouraged increased spending, tax-smart spending, income splitting, along with optimizing asset allocation and asset location. This new strategic approach provided an expected value equivalent to about 266 basis points or 2.66% in additional returns when compared to the old strategy, and provides additional utility with now the use of the vacation home. And having that vacation home, really what we're doing here is taking that, that large bequest that would be transferring to the family throughout the will, and getting that same degree of bequest, but having more life satisfaction and family vacations throughout that time while you're still alive. So this new strategic approach provides an expected value equivalent to 266 basis points or 2.66% in additional return when compared to the old strategy, and provides additional utility with the now use of a vacation home. In dollar terms, this translates to a windfall equivalent to over $1.6 million. And what it does is it takes a large amount of extra bequest to provide the same degree of life satisfaction as those family vacations will. Financial advisors provide a great deal of value in a myriad of ways. The value of helping retirement investors reach their goals is higher than many people imagine. By making that value tangible to clients, advisors like myself can improve retirement investors' outcomes. The key to providing and understanding value in any situation is first understanding the goals and plans of each client, then identifying the right set of advice interventions for each client and situation. And really, this is what's critical in maximizing that advisor value. Measuring this value is a key task to help advisors discover the most valuable advice recommendations and to communicate to clients the value of following through. As life progresses and aspirations and market conditions change, financial advisors need to depend on their processes so that they can understand investors' changing needs and continue to find opportunities to provide value. Now, at the end of the day, value is in the eye of the beholder, and more often than not, it is a feeling that must be experienced by a retirement investor and not something that can simply be told to them. I know I could stand on my soapbox and keep ranting about my value. I could pull out graphs and charts and research papers to justify and prove my value, but again, the simple fact is that value can be difficult to articulate if not experienced firsthand. And this is why so many people rely on referrals from their friends for advisors, rather than seeking value for themselves. Now, if you want to experience what value actually feels like, I encourage you to check out our fundamental retirement plan process, our risk-free approach for you to experience massive value firsthand. Okay, so that does it for today. Here are your action items for today's episode. First off, check out the research paper I went through today to view the data for yourself. As I mentioned earlier, this is a US study, so I did modify some of the verbiage in this podcast to better align with us folks north of the border. Next, be sure you understand the bigger picture. There's no denying that DIY investing is cheaper, but is cheaper always better? I am all for a deal. I personally track the cost of things I want to buy well in advance of purchasing them. But, if I happen to overspend $50 or $100 on a purchase, I don't expect for that decision to have a lasting impact on my long-term financial goals. Retirement, on the other hand, is more high stakes. Oftentimes, there are $1 million at play and potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax burdens that could be otherwise alleviated through proper planning. Okay, so that'll do it for today's episode. Make sure you add us to all your socials, LinkedIn and Facebook. For all the links and resources that I've discussed, check out the show notes. If you've been enjoying the show, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app. Be sure that you're signed up for the weekly Retiring Canada newsletter. And hey, when it comes to your retirement, don't take chances. Make a plan so you can retire with confidence.
All comments are of a general nature and should not be relied upon as individual advice. The views and opinions expressed in this commentary may not necessarily reflect those of Harbourfront Wealth Management. While every attempt is made to ensure accuracy, facts and figures are not guaranteed. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing or tax advice. Please seek advice from your accountant regarding anything raised in the content of the podcast regarding your individual tax situation. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.